Hi everyone, welcome back to my travel diary series. So on this particular day of the travel diary, we spent the day at the Fukui Prefecture Dinosaur Museum. So actually one of the main things that Fukui is known for is dinosaurs. And the reason for that is because roughly 80% of all dinosaur fossils in Japan have been found in Fukui. Now because of this, there's actually quite a few dinosaur themed locations around Fukui as well, such as the main Fukui train station actually has a lot of large size dinosaur statues out the front, as well as some paintings and stuff like that. Now, I had actually gone to the Fukui Dinosaur Museum a few years back, but since then they've actually done a lot of renovations and added a lot of new exhibits and stuff like that, so I was really interested to get back there and have a look at what's changed. So the Fukui Dinosaur Museum is roughly an hour's drive from where we were staying in Fukui. Now, I actually really enjoyed the drive to the Fukui Dinosaur Museum. It was such a scenic drive with all of the mountains and rice fields and old Japanese houses on the way there. It was really incredible. Even on such a cloudy day, the landscape just looks so amazing. Now, on the way, we could actually tell once we were getting pretty close to the dinosaur museum, and the reason for that was because you could see this giant white T-Rex just in the middle of nowhere, basically. Now, one of the other things that we noticed was that the traffic on the way to the dinosaur museum was actually getting really busy. The main road to and from the dinosaur museum was just packed. There was so many cars and it was just backed up for such a long way. So we turned off the main road and we headed to a nearby car park where there is actually a shuttle bus that runs directly to the museum. Now this particular bus is specifically for patrons of the museum, so it is completely free as long as you are going to the museum. Now the bus ride to the museum was a little bit interesting. Now the road at times seemed like it was just way too narrow for this bus, but it was still really cool. It was almost like being in a Jurassic Park movie, just driving through the forest. Now, as soon as we arrived at the Dinosaur Museum, I was actually pretty amazed at the amount of people that were there just out the front. Now, the reason for this is because when I actually went to this museum a few years back, I would say the whole time that I was there was probably less people than there was right here just out the front. So it was really good to see just how much more popularity the Dinosaur Museum has gotten since the recent renovations. Now, I actually really enjoyed it here even before all of that, so I was really excited to be able to get in there and see what's changed. Now when we got to the Dinosaur Museum, our first stop was going to just be the gift store. So we just wanted to have a quick look around, see what kind of gifts they had there. Now the gift store had a ton of dinosaur themed goodies, such as clocks, magnets, archaeology kits, models, stationery, kids dishes. However, one of my favorite things that I saw there was these little kids' school backpacks. They were just so cute. However, I was really shocked to see how expensive these type of backpacks were in Japan. 75,000 yen, or roughly 750 Australian dollars. That was really shocking to see. So after walking around the gift store for a little bit, we decided to head back to the main entrance of the museum. Now I remember when we first came to this dinosaur museum a few years back, this room here was actually completely empty. There was not a single person inside. Now this room actually takes you all the way down to the bottom floor, which is where the main exhibit starts. So at the bottom, the first thing that you see is this hallway that's just filled with all these different types of fossils. And at the end of the hallway, there's this one big giant fossil of this long-necked dinosaur, and it shows the position that it's in. Now, one thing I did want to quickly mention, although I do have a bit of an interest in dinosaurs, I am horrible when it comes to their names. I know very generic terms when it comes to dinosaur names, but I definitely have no idea what each specific species is called. Now from the top of the stairs that are near this fossil, you can really get a good look at what it actually looks like, as well as the main floor to the actual exhibit itself. So this robot T-Rex here is one of the many newer attractions added to the Dinosaur Museum. I feel like these robot dinosaurs were actually a really good addition to the museum as well. With all the kids running around, it kind of made the museum feel more like it was a theme park than a museum, in a good way. It just felt so much more lively and interactive and fun. Now, I've been to a natural history museum before in Australia, but I haven't actually been to a specific dinosaur museum other than this one. I remember being blown away at how many displays there were here the first time I came, and there's actually been quite a lot added since then. Some of the displays at this museum were really interesting, and some of them were actually quite sad. Such as this one here, where these two baby dinosaurs actually fossilized fighting to death. Now at the back end of this floor there was another area that had a lot more robotic dinosaurs, such as this really tall Brachiosaurus, and these little guys here just bobbing their heads. I had this other smaller long-necked dinosaur that was like it was under attack. This random little carnivorous dinosaur. And a Stegosaurus just drinking some water. Now these ones were a little bit underwhelming in comparison to that T-Rex out the front. However, the kids at the museum still really enjoyed this area, and I guess that's really the main point. I feel like when it comes to dinosaurs, a lot of people tend to like the big, carnivorous dinosaurs the most. However, for me personally, these ones here would have to be some of my favourites. I've always thought that these dinosaurs have a lot more interesting quirks, like these hard heads and tails that are built like a hammer. Now over on the opposite end from the robots at the back, there was an area that had exhibits more in relation to the archaeology and geology side of things. For instance, there was this site map of Fukui and where dinosaur bones have been found. This skeleton of a dinosaur called a Fukuisaurus, which was actually discovered right here in Fukui. And many other bones that were actually discovered in Fukui as well. Separating the archaeology and geology areas, there is yet another robot dinosaur. And now, I was actually pleasantly surprised with the geology area. It was really interesting to see just how many different types of stones and crystals and all that kind of stuff that there was. All of the different shapes, sizes and colours were all really amazing. I could imagine how satisfying it must feel to find some of these stones. I was also surprised that some were almost like a perfect cube shape. I would have to say the blue topaz was probably one of my favorites. They also had a wall there that was set up that had all of these birthstones in both their cut and raw forms. After the geology area, we headed past these big guys and up this ramp to go to the second floor, which overlooks the first floor. Now the second floor was a lot smaller than the first floor, it's about half the size. And up on the second floor, it had a lot more bones in relation to what came after the dinosaurs. So there was a lot of sea life as well as smaller lizards and mammals, such as these huge fish jaws and these sea life fossils, as well as this huge turtle. Now, I could only imagine seeing something like this in real life. It would be amazing. I really enjoyed seeing all of the different sea life in this area. Like this guy here was just incredibly long. Now they also had these land lizards here which were a lot smaller than all of the dinosaurs downstairs. I also really enjoyed seeing the different mammals that they had there, such as these giant elk-like deer, the mammoths. As well as this rhino-looking fella. Now, in this particular area, there was a lot of interactive sections set up for kids to view different things. Now, I didn't really get into that side of things too much just because there were a lot of kids there, so I didn't take any footage or anything of that area. But if you've got kids, it does look like it would be really amazing because they all seemed like they were having a lot of fun with all of the different interactive exhibits. So after this area, we headed through a doorway that led back into the big room with the escalator that took us down to the bottom floor. Now, on this level of this room, there was this informational video. Now, this one goes into detail in regards to the process of finding and cleaning these fossils. Now, many of these are actually cleaned and sorted right here in the Fukui Prefecture Dinosaur Museum, right here actually in this very room. The focus and attention to detail it must take them to go through and clean all of these fossils one by one must be just incredible. Now, one thing I did actually forget to mention is one of the main attractions to this dinosaur museum is that there is an area outside that's set up for excavations. So you can actually buy a separate ticket where you can go there and dig around and actually look for dinosaur bones. Now, these here are actually some of the bones that were actually found by just normal individual people at this particular site. So lastly, we headed around to the back area of the museum for the final new exhibit. Which was this big room with these 3 massive screens that plays a short video of what life would have been like here in Fukui all those years ago. So after we left the Fukui Prefecture Dinosaur Museum and got on the bus, headed back to the car, it was actually quite late, so we decided that we would just stop off for dinner and call it a night. Now, unfortunately, I completely forgot the name of this particular place that we stopped at for dinner, but the food there was absolutely amazing. I was really glad that I got the opportunity to go back to the Fukui Dinosaur Museum because I did really enjoy it the first time, and it was really good to see just how much more popular it is now than it was back then. And I'd also really like to hear your opinion on it, so if you can leave it in the comments section below, I look forward to reading it. Anyways, that's all for this week's episode of my travel diary series. Now, next week I'll actually be going to another little museum where the exhibits are on a much smaller scale. So I hope you look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.